Fred Vasseur just admitted it, out loud, on camera. Ferrari made a strategy mistake that cost Lewis Hamilton a podium he could practically taste. But here's the question that should worry every Ferrari fan right now. If the team principal himself is confirming the error, why does it feel like nobody inside Maranello actually knew how to fix it in real time? If you've been following this story, you already know Zandvoort was supposed to be different. This was the final Dutch Grand Prix under the current hosting agreement, an emotional farewell for the sport at this iconic circuit, and Ferrari walked in with genuine confidence that their pace could finally deliver a result worthy of the car. So what actually went wrong? Why did Lewis Hamilton, a 7-time world champion, end up venting on live radio about being used as a guinea pig? And what does Vasseur's admission really tell us about the state of Ferrari's strategy room heading into the second half of the season? Stick with me until the end of this video, because I'm going to walk you through exactly what happened lap by lap, exactly what Vasseur said afterward, and exactly why this mistake might matter far more than a single missed podium. Let's set the scene properly. Hamilton and his teammate Charles Leclerc both qualified on the third row at Zandvoort, a track infamous for how difficult it is to overtake on. That already put Ferrari on the back foot before a single lap of the race had even started. But once the lights went out, something surprising happened. Ferrari's race pace turned out to be strong, genuinely strong, arguably stronger than Mercedes on that Sunday. So here's the first question worth sitting with. If your car has the pace to fight at the front, but you still finish 4th and 5th, whose fault is that really? The drivers? Or the pit walls? According to Vasseur himself, the answer points squarely at execution. Speaking afterward, he admitted that Ferrari's pace was good, even strong compared to Mercedes, but that the story of the race quickly became about missed opportunities rather than missed pace. And the first opportunity slipped away almost immediately. At the second start of the race, following an early red flag, Ferrari got stuck behind Oscar Piastri, losing valuable time they could never fully recover. That alone reshaped the entire complexion of their afternoon. But it was what happened next that really lit the fuse on Hamilton's frustration. As the race developed, Ferrari found themselves with a genuine opportunity to attack George Russell for third place. Leclerc had closed the gap to just a few seconds, and Vasseur later confirmed the plan at that moment was to attempt an undercut on the Mercedes driver. Here's a question worth asking. When you finally have your rival within striking distance and the plan is set, what happens if your own execution hesitates at exactly the wrong moment? That's precisely what happened. The undercut opportunity was there. Ferrari had it. And then, according to Vasseur, they simply didn't use it. Meanwhile, on the other side of the garage, Hamilton was dealing with a completely different kind of frustration. He was running on a fresher set of tires than Leclerc, and he wanted through. But Ferrari didn't immediately wave Leclerc aside. Instead, Leclerc stayed out on track for an extra lap before finally pitting and clearing the way. And that's when Hamilton's patience ran out over the radio, sarcastically remarking that it had been a great way to waste time, before asking his own team point-blank if he was being used as some kind of guinea pig. Now here's a question that deserves real attention. When a 7-time world champion starts openly wondering whether his own team is experimenting on him mid-race, is that just heat-of-the-moment frustration? Or is that a sign that communication between the cockpit and the pit wall has completely broken down at the worst possible time? Vasseur's explanation afterward was surprisingly candid. He revealed that Ferrari deliberately chose not to tell Hamilton the full strategy in that moment, specifically because they didn't want to tip off their competitors about what they were planning. The actual idea, according to Vasseur, was to keep Hamilton out on track all the way to the end of the race, gambling that he could hold off Antonelli behind him. And here's the twist that changes how you should think about this entire situation. Vasseur believes that gamble would have paid off had it not been for a virtual safety car that appeared with under 20 laps remaining, completely reshuffling the timing of every strategy on track. So think about that for a second. Ferrari's plan wasn't actually broken. According to their own team principal, it might have worked perfectly, but because Hamilton wasn't told what the plan actually was, all he experienced in the moment was confusion, frustration, and the sensation of losing time behind his own teammate for no clear reason. Doesn't that raise an uncomfortable question? If a strategy is sound, but the driver executing it has no idea what's happening, How much value does that strategy actually have? Vasseur didn't stop there either. He went on to acknowledge that the whole Leclerc situation had been, in his own words, a kind of confusion. Leclerc was originally supposed to pit at a certain point, but Ferrari extended his stint by an extra lap, and that single adjustment created a ripple effect that directly delayed Hamilton's own opportunity to attack. Vasseur insisted he wasn't worried about the mix-up long-term, promising that the full team would sit down in the debrief and walk away with a clearer picture. But here's the question fans are asking right now. How many more races can Ferrari afford to treat as learning experiences before "will be clearer next time" stops being an acceptable answer? And there's another layer to this story that makes it even more complicated. Tire compound confusion. According to Vasseur, Leclerc himself grew frustrated at one stage specifically about which tire compound the team should be using, and Vasseur admitted that honestly, everybody, not just Leclerc, seemed a little lost about the compounds that day. He pointed to race winner Lando Norris as an example, noting that Norris started on the medium compound before switching to soft, and that the performance difference between the two options was incredibly marginal, making it genuinely difficult for any team to build a clear strategic picture in real time. So here's a question worth considering. If even the eventual race winner's team was uncertain about which tire compound offered the real advantage, is it really fair to call Ferrari's confusion a unique failure? Or does it say something bigger about just how unpredictable this particular Dutch Grand Prix turned out to be for every single team on the grid? Still, Vasseur wasn't hiding behind that excuse entirely. In a separate interview, he was even more direct about where Ferrari's true weakness lay that weekend. He said plainly that it came down to execution. The pace, he confirmed once again, was good, even strong compared to Mercedes. But turning that pace into results required split-second decisions, and Ferrari simply didn't make all of them correctly. Now let's talk about how this all actually played out on the timing sheets, because the numbers tell their own painful story. Lando Norris crossed the line first, capturing his third straight victory and closing out Zandvoort's era on the F1 calendar in style. Behind him came the Mercedes duo, Kimi Antonelli finishing second, with George Russell holding on for third. And right on Russell's tail, separated by a gut-wrenching margin of less than 1 second, Hamilton crossed the line in fourth, with Leclerc close behind him in fifth. Let that sink in for a moment. Hamilton finished just 0.849 seconds behind Russell, less than a second between a podium finish and going home with nothing to show for a genuinely fast car. And according to Ferrari's own team principal, that gap can be traced directly back to a handful of specific, identifiable strategic moments Vasseur himself has now openly acknowledged. So here's the real question at the center of this entire story. Is this a one-off mistake, an unfortunate collision of red flags, safety cars, and unclear tire data on one unusual Sunday? Or is this part of a deeper pattern that's been quietly building at Ferrari all season long? Because remember, this wasn't the first time strategic execution has cost Ferrari a result this year. And if you're a driver chasing an 8th world championship, every single missed opportunity compounds. Every point left on the table in August could be the exact margin separating first and second place in the championship come December. Vasseur, for his part, remains publicly confident that Ferrari can learn from what happened at Zandvoort. He's stressed that the team needs to improve its decision-making if it genuinely wants to fight for the championship, acknowledging that the second half of the season will be absolutely crucial. Ferrari needs to score points, close the gap to Mercedes, and above all, avoid repeating the exact kind of strategic confusion that unfolded in the Netherlands. He's even framed it as part of a broader process, explaining that sometimes the team has to adjust or change strategy mid-race as they learn from what rivals are doing, even if that process is frustrating for the drivers living through it in real time. But here's a question worth asking as we head toward the next round. How much patience do Hamilton and Leclerc actually have left for that kind of learning curve? Hamilton is 30-plus years into a legendary career, chasing a piece of history that might define his entire legacy. Leclerc, meanwhile, has waited years for a genuine championship-caliber car. Neither driver has unlimited runway left to wait for Ferrari's strategy room to catch up to their own on-track pace. And that's really what makes this story so compelling right now. This isn't a car problem. Ferrari themselves, through their own team principle, have confirmed the SF26 had the pace, even superior pace compared to Mercedes on that Sunday. This is a human problem, a communication problem, a split-second decision-making problem, and those are often the hardest problems for any Formula One team to fully solve, because they require trust, timing, and flawless execution under pressure, race after race after race. So where does that leave Ferrari heading into the remainder of the 2026 season? They sit second in the championship with real admitted pace advantages on certain weekends, but a track record of strategic missteps that keeps turning potential victories into damage limitation exercises. Vasseur has been honest about the mistake. That much is clear. But being honest about a mistake and actually eliminating it from happening again are two very different challenges. So now I want to hear directly from you. Do you believe Fred Vasseur's honesty about this strategy mistake is a genuinely good sign, a team principal willing to admit fault and learn from it? Or does the fact that this keeps happening race after race suggest a much deeper structural problem inside Ferrari's pit wall? And most importantly, with less than half the season remaining, do you think Ferrari can actually fix this in time to mount a real championship challenge? Or has Zandvoort just become the latest example of a team that keeps building the speed but can't quite finish the job? Drop your thoughts in the comments below right now. I genuinely want to know whether you're feeling optimistic about Ferrari's second half or increasingly worried about their strategy room. And if this video helped you understand exactly what went wrong at Zandvoort and why Vasseur's admission matters so much for the rest of the championship, do me a favor, hit that like button so more fans can see the full story behind the headlines. Subscribe if you haven't already, because with a season this unpredictable, you don't want to miss what happens next. And turn on notifications, because the next time Ferrari's strategy room is put to the test, you'll want to be here the moment it happens. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.